Hello, my name is Daniel Patrick Swain and this is my Wwise and Unreal Engine game audio implementation demo walkthrough. This isn't a tutorial but more of an in-depth look into how I use Wwise and Unreal to create an immersive sonic landscape complete with an interactive music system. The map I downloaded from the Unreal Marketplace. It was just no environment map, so it came with no character. So the first thing I did was to migrate the Unreal third-person character and its animations to my level. I created all the animation blueprints and an anim graph, so I had a working, movable character in my level. Then I retargeted a James Bond style character to the character mesh, and everything was looking great. I could now get on with the audio implementation. So the first thing I did here was create some auxiliary buses, which are here. And on each auxiliary bus I have a different effect. So on them I have two areas where I needed reverb. I had a big part of the cave and two small caves within the cave. So in the big cave I have a big kind of customized cathedral reverb and also a delay, so you can hear it kind of echo as you'd expect. And then in the small caves I needed a reverb that was a really like as if you're in a small area. So I've got this yellow submarine, which is perfect because it sounded really kind of metallic and like as if you were in a small cave, and it worked well. So if I come to Unreal now, this is a map graph of all my audio volumes. So you've got tetrahedrons and cuboids. So these two rectangles, well, these three outer rectangles here, the small spaces. So each one of those represents the auxiliary bus cave small space, and then any of one of the others, like these big tetrahedrons, I've just got attached to the other auxiliary bus, which is just the cave reverb. And then also here I have portals. So if I come over here, you can see that this is in between both the small reverb and the big reverb, so it bleeds the reverb in between each one. So when I'm in the small going into the big, I can hear the reverb kind of coming towards me. It doesn't just immediately change, it bleeds, so you get a nice natural blend of reverbs as you go from one space to the other. And this created a really nice natural effect. So here we have all my environment sounds, of which I have some blizzards, some cave winds, and some water drips and some waterfall sounds. So these were all made at home with just recording at home, various methods of Foley, including blowing into the mic for the wind, and for the waterfall and the water drips I had a big rock slab and I was just dripping, experimenting different ways of splashing, things like that, and processed it all inside Ableton. Made some kind of loops, so it's all seamless loops. All of this is like every single loop has been made, so it just can repeat forever without kind of noticing that it's repeating. And then in Wwise I've just got some attenuation here, so just under positioning, each one has its own custom attenuation of volume and the distance and the curve there. So they all have their own attenuation. I can come to Unreal. You can actually see here the actual attenuation of all the environment effects in my map. Okay, so inside Unreal here, what I've done is dragged an AK ambient sound actor onto the map, and then turned it into a blueprint, and I've got my little post event where I've got my Wwise event of whatever it is, and I've got just a reference to self and an event begin play. And obviously the attenuation is in Wwise, and you can just, once that's highlighted, you can actually see the attenuation here. And that's how I've done all my environment sounds. Okay folks, next up is footsteps. So the first thing I did was record them all at home. I got 5 material surfaces, so I had to make individual footstep samples for each surface material, plus for walking, running and jumping. So if I show you underneath here, here are all the individual samples, and I did it all at home using Foley techniques. I've just got like for the soft snow I was using corn flour in a bag, using my fist to roll across it. The rope bridge just used a big old wooden block. For water I used just walking in a tub. Wet rock, I had a big old rock slab, I covered it in water. And then icy rock path, I just use the same slab but dry. So what I've done here is in GameSyncs I've created a switch group, and underneath the switch group I have my switches representing each material. Then here under each switch container I have assigned each random container with its assigned material switch. And then what I have is a blend container with everything underneath, with everything, both walking and running switch containers underneath my blend container. If I come here to GameSyncs, I've got a game parameter called player movement speed. I've set the parameters here and then hooked up my blend container to a crossfade. So now I've got my my player movement speed on a crossfade. So as we go from walking and we change our speed to running, it actually switches to this switch container and we'll be using different samples, because as you run you have kind of shorter footsteps. And then in Unreal I've actually got that hooked up to the mouse wheel, and I'll show you the blueprints for that. Inside Unreal I have my physical materials here, which I just right click. You've got physics, physical material, and then under my project settings come to physics. I have all my materials written here. So once I've done that, I had to find in the map the surface materials. So I found that in environment materials, ground. So a lot of these, so for example, I click on this one here, I've got under physical material, I've assigned it to wet rock. So I found all the surface materials in my map and assigned the physical material, and that would be assigned to the switch and wires. So if I come to my third person character blueprint, I've got my footsteps material switch system blueprint. So it's just an event tick, it just shoots down a line to your feet, and it just chooses the switch here, materials group, and it prints me a string. So I can, in game I can see on the left hand side, it tells me what material I'm walking on, so I know that was working perfect. And then here, my mouse wheel speed motion map. So this is a blueprint that allows my mouse wheel to control the speed of my character. And then if I come to my animation blueprint, come to my event graph, this now is my animation blueprint, but that's also hooked up to my mouse speed, and I've got the player movement switch of the walking and running hooked up to my mouse wheel. So now my player movement switch and wires is connected to the mouse wheel. So whenever I'm running or walking in the map, I can use my mouse wheel to slow or speed up my character, and it's going to be seamlessly controlling my blend container in wires. Okay, so here I have my jump switch container, which I have all the random containers for each surface type, and each one just has a couple of jumps. And now I come into Unreal. So inside Unreal I've got my animation blueprint, and just like the footsteps I've got a line trace shooting at the feet, detects the surface, casts a character, and then it sets the switch. So I have all my I've got a switch for each surface type, and then that's connected to my post event, which is connected to my Wwise jump event. Okay folks, so here's my interactive music system. So I made 2 different songs, one for each part of the map. So I've got my cave music and my mountain music, and the way I've done it is I've actually exported each of the stems of each song separately, as you can see with my music tracks here, and each one is titled with the BPM, the time signature, the length of the bars, and whether there was an intro, and that just helps you implement it afterwards, otherwise it can be quite a mess. This is a bit of an industry standard labeling system. I've set my start and end points here. I've turned each track to a random step track and added empty subtracks. What happens is when I press play, it basically randomly plays each track or doesn't play the track, so you get an endless variation of each stem. So maybe one time it will play just the guitar and the cello, or it might play both cellos and the synth, or it might play all of them together, or it might play just the cello by itself. So every time it loops, I'm hearing endless variations of the same song, and it's perfect for game because it doesn't get repetitive, but also feels like the same song and has that familiar feeling, and that's great. Okay, so here I have set up in game states I've got a state group music, and underneath the cave and mountain states, and then here I've set them up so they've corresponded to the right one here. So I've set up a pathway to cave music, to the cave music music playlist container here. So whenever I'm in cave music, it will play cave music, and whenever I'm in mountain, it will play mountain. I've also set up transitions, which you can do up here. So if I click this, it goes from any to any. So whether it goes from cave to mountain or mountain to cave, it will do my little fade-ins and fade-outs. So in Unreal, I've created 2 trigger boxes and converted them both into a blueprint class, and then you can see in the viewport here my 2 trigger boxes, and then in the event graph I have my blueprint. So it's just a collision box cast to the third person. It prints out a string so I know I'm in the right place, and then it sets the state, and then it will post the event, the music event, and I've also printed a string to make sure it's all working. And that's my music system.